All right, camera set up. All right, the Pin and the Shank is live on Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to anyone who is tuning in and who is going to watch this live stream as we sit back and just have a chat and just discuss the topic of Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving ain't always something that everyone is thankful for. People have different memories. Some people see Thanksgiving as not a good thing. Some people have fond memories of Thanksgiving. Some people absolutely abhor Thanksgiving for whatever reason. Everybody got different reasons on why they do or don't like something. So I'm not here to share on, talk about who likes Thanksgiving, who doesn't like Thanksgiving. I'm just saying I hope you have a good day in spite of Thanksgiving. Or if you really do enjoy Thanksgiving, hopefully you're having a great Thanksgiving and you got to spend it with your family. Not everybody gets to spend Thanksgiving with their families. The first Thanksgiving that I was home from prison was a really nice Thanksgiving. It was the first Thanksgiving, obviously, I was with my wife. It was the first Thanksgiving that I was with my family in a long time because I had spent 6 Thanksgivings and 6 Christmases in prison back to back to back. And in between those 6 Thanksgivings and the Thanksgiving before, I was actually home. I was home for 1 Thanksgiving, but I was in prison for two, maybe 3 more Thanksgivings before that. And then there was another Thanksgiving spread along somewhere. So I did, about a decade of Thanksgivings incarcerated. And to finally be at a Thanksgiving and experience a Thanksgiving home after all those years was a really wonderful thing. It was a good feeling. I was still trying to get my feet on the ground. I was still trying to get my footing, so to speak, trying to find my way in society. And that wasn't an easy thing to do. So I had just met my wife and we was getting to know each other, and we went on this Thanksgiving trip. And something I remember on the way, we went to Virginia to visit my brother in Virginia. And we also visited my wife's brother. He was in Maryland. They just so happened to live that close. There was like maybe 2 hours away from each other, if that, from Fairfax, Virginia to wherever in Maryland. And so it wasn't a far distance. And we went there. I was just getting out of prison, and I remember thinking to myself, man, I sure would like to see some snow. I always wanted to see snow. And I was telling my brother, because he had been living in Virginia for some time at that point, I said, man, wouldn't you like to, is it going to snow while we're up here? And him and his wife, they were like, nah, probably not. It's not going to snow. It rarely snows around Thanksgiving. And wouldn't you know, and we were told the same thing from everybody. I think my wife's brother and his family told us the same thing too. It does snow up there, but usually not this early. Thanksgiving Eve, we were eating at what was the name of that restaurant? I forgot. It was one of those restaurants that wound up being a chain restaurant. It was my first time being there. And while we were eating in the restaurant, sure enough, it started snowing. And they said, there's y'all snow. It was just an amazing thing. And that was my first Thanksgiving home from prison. And we actually took some photos from that trip. I don't know where they're at. But next Thanksgiving, my goal is to have those photos uncovered and figure out where they're at. So next Thanksgiving, I can actually share those photos on a live. But one of the things I wanted to do was just sit back and just talk during Thanksgiving. And I figured, hey, get your favorite drink, whether it's a cup of coffee, whether it's some eggnog. I got some eggnog and I'm drinking my eggnog. Bonefish Grill, that was it. My wife is watching the live and she typed in, it was Bonefish Grill. We were sitting at Bonefish Grill and we were eating, and after all the discussion for like the last 2 or 3 days about snow, and everybody kind of just raining our parade. And they wasn't really trying to be negative about it. They were just being realistic. It usually doesn't snow around Virginia and Maryland for Thanksgiving. Well, it did this time. I'm curious. I might have to go back and look and see when's the last time it actually snowed for Thanksgiving in that area. I wonder if that's the last time it actually snowed for Thanksgiving in Maryland and Virginia. Because like I said, a lot of people told me it does not snow in Fairfax, Virginia during Thanksgiving. Far as I know, I could be wrong. The last time it snowed was around 1995, 1996. I don't know. I haven't been there since. But we got to see snow, and I was fresh out of prison. And so coming home from prison in a southern state in Louisiana, where all day long, even in December, it's scorching heat, and you're working in the fields, and you're in the cell block, and you might be in a cell that doesn't have a fan on it. You're in the middle, and all you can hear is them big industrial fans. And they spin like that, and you could hear them because they reverberate in the whole tier, and the wind's blowing from one end to the next. But you don't know if you're going to be able to be cooled off because you're in the middle cells. If you're on the end of one end of the tier, but cell 1, cell 2, cell 3, or cell the ones to the end, you're going to get some air. But if you're in the middle, you're sweating in December. Right now in December, man, in the cell block in Louisiana, it's hot. I know you get a little further up north, North Alabama, even North Louisiana, it's a little bit cooler. But not in South Louisiana, it ain't cool. And another thing, you can't sit back and have a cup of eggnog, and I'm having a cup of eggnog on Thanksgiving, but my family's not with me. And that's something that I also wanted to talk about. How do you deal with Thanksgiving when everything you knew as a kid is gone? Everything you experienced as a child, all those memories that you had with your mother, your father, your siblings, your husband or wife, if you have one and you don't have them now for whatever reason, and your kids, and you're just alone. And the family's not a close family. And so Thanksgiving's not a big deal to you because you're just going to sit back and watch some reruns on Netflix or whatever. But you still got to make the best of it. It doesn't do any good to wallow in pity. That's my opinion, no matter what. So my family's gone. I lost my immediate family. I lost my dad. I'm going to start from the order. I lost my mother. I lost my brother. And I lost my father. All in a 4-year period. And the thing that really gut punched me in life was when I lost my cat. After I lost my father, after I lost my brother, after I lost my mother, they all died just repetitiously back to back. And man, it was heavy because I was still grieving my mother. And then bam, my brother dies from fentanyl. That's why I hate fentanyl so much. I hate any street narcotics because it wreaks havoc on people's lives. And it left a hole in my life because my brother's not here. And that's the only sibling I have. And so now I'm 2 or 3 Thanksgivings without my brother now. And after my dad died, because my dad died right after Thanksgiving and going into the new year. And then this year, I lost my cat, Caesar. And I did a whole video. And the video, it's like an hour and something long video on how I'm grieving the loss of my cat. And it broke my heart to be without my cat, I'm still grieving my cat. This is the first Thanksgiving that I don't have my cat in 15 years. 15 years. That's how long Caesar was with me and my wife. And when I would make Thanksgiving meals, even though it might just be me, my wife, and my cat, we had our cat, Caesar. He would be in the kitchen looking at us crazy, wanting to know when we're going to hand him a piece of turkey. And we'd give him a piece of turkey or a piece of ham, or we'll open some tuna fish and give him that so he could celebrate with us. So, it's been difficult, and we still have Christmas left, but we get through it, right? We make the best of it. And if you know anything, on my channel, I like to be honest and open. And like I said, man, I've come a long way from prison to where I am now. But it wasn't easy. It was that first Thanksgiving that I was home from prison, like I said, and I thought everything was just going to be cookies and cream. I thought it was going to be cake and ice cream. It was going to be good every single year. But it was a lot of rough time in between, man. Life is real. Just because you get home from prison. That's the thing. When you're in prison, you think everybody's out here, doing the best that they've ever done, ever, and they're just, having the greatest time of their life, but that's not always the case. And when you get out, you have these grand expectations that you're going to have you're going to do the greatest things ever too. And when you get out, it's not what you expect. And then people start tapping back in and start doing stuff like drinking and drugs, and their life gets out of it's a downward spiral, And once they get in the downward spiral, that's it. You know, it doesn't matter if you got Thanksgiving alone or not. If you start doing stuff that's detrimental to your own life, well, good stuff usually don't happen. And here, Pin in the Shank, I want to speak encouragement and positivity to everyone. And if you did spend Thanksgiving alone, hey, look, we're here together. Like I said, hopefully you grabbed a cup of coffee or some eggnog, and you're sitting back and you type in the comments. You can share whatever you want to share, and we can talk about it. But I wanted to talk about, why did I decide to start a prison YouTube channel? I kept it hidden as best as I could. When I would share it, a lot of the time people would tell me that they were surprised and would not have assumed me to be the type of person who was in prison. Let's see, I got a comment. It says, we make the best of what we have in the present as we think. Oh, it went through quick, but that was my wonderful wife. And I asked her to, help me along with these lives. And I'm blessed to have her this Thanksgiving. That's the best thing about Thanksgiving, is I got my wife. But the reason I decided to start this YouTube channel is, the reason I didn't start it before is because I was ashamed of my criminal past. A lot of people brag about that criminal past. They brag about it. They think it's still a badge of honor. I looked at my criminal past and my thug life past and my gangster past as a badge of embarrassment. I wasn't proud that I went to prison. I wasn't proud that I was in a gang. I wasn't proud of these things. I wasn't proud that I committed crimes and felonies. I wasn't proud of this. I was ashamed of it. And so why would I want to start a YouTube channel about me being in prison and everything I went through when I was young, when I was ashamed of it? But as I began to share that story with individuals, as opposed to on a cellular device on camera, the people I spoke to individually began to tell me, I wouldn't assume that you was the type of person who'd been to prison. And then when I told them how long I was in prison, they were like, man, that's a long time you've done in prison, man. What'd you do? And then when I told them what I did, they was like, man, you really did all that? I'm like, yes, I did that. And they're like, man, I don't look at you any different. Thanks for sharing that with me. And so I had to, over the years, come outside of being embarrassed from being in prison and being ashamed of it, to accepting it as it being a part of who I was as a person. I couldn't change that. I wasn't the person I was without prison. I wasn't the person I was without committing the crimes that I committed. And I never would have gotten where I am today if I don't go through the penitentiary, if I don't go through prison. Except I didn't do like other people. When I was in prison, there was that moment, that spark. And I'll never forget it. We was all sitting around drinking alcohol in prison. The guards used to sneak us alcohol in. And this is in the 90s. And we drinking the alcohol. And I remember I was semi-drunk. And I can't drink alcohol. If anybody's been watching my channel for a while, you know I'm part Japanese. My grandmother came from Japan. And my mom is half Japanese. So genetically, I have Japanese in me. When I did a DNA test, I think they said I was 33% Japanese because my grandmother's 100% Japanese. Anyway, I have a thing that they call Asian flush. It's where you drink alcohol, and when you drink the alcohol, it causes your body or your liver or kidney, whatever. I don't know how it is. I'm not a doctor. It can't break down the alcohol sugars correctly. So it makes you sick. So I rarely ever drink alcohol. Every once in a while I'll drink. That's why I'm drinking this eggnog, but it's a small amount of alcohol because I can't handle alcohol. The last one time when me and my wife first met, I got drunk and she had to call the EMT on me because I thought I was dying. I really thought I was dying. The EMT get there and they're like, yeah, you're going to be okay. They took my vitals and everything. They said, it's going to cost you a lot of money to get carried all the way to the hospital just because you had too much to drink. Well, they didn't know that I had Asian flush. And I don't know the scientific name that they call it, but most people refer to it as Asian flush. And so that's why I can barely ever drink alcohol. And so when I do drink it, it's a small amount. And during the holidays, I will pour a little bit of eggnog, but I will put it, like this is mostly regular eggnog, and I'll put like a little tiny bit of alcoholic eggnog, and it gives it that flavor that makes me think of Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so that's the only time pretty much I'll ever have a drink. And I can't get drunk off of it because I won't have that much because it'll make me sick and I won't be able to enjoy it. But back to why I decided to start a YouTube channel. I just felt like it was time. It was a now or never approach. When my father was in the hospital, I started moving a little bit quicker because I approach life a lot of times on my own time frame. I'll get to it when I get to it. But when my dad was there, one of his last words to me, if not, it was the last things he said to me was, "Son, get her done. Pick up the pace." And so it's been a few years that my dad has passed away now, going on, as soon as we hit the beginning of the year. And I don't know if I picked up the pace. Actually, I think a little bit, but I haven't picked up the pace. And another reason that I decided to start a YouTube channel is because I felt like it was a now or never approach. And one reason I didn't start a YouTube channel early on is because I didn't understand technology. I spent all that time in prison and technology it just passed me by. So I was afraid of technology. I was afraid on how to approach this. I didn't know how to work the cameras. I didn't know how to do all this stuff. And so it slowed me down for a long time. And I'm still learning it, but at least I can always say that I took the chance and I began to teach myself this technology. So that was one thing that kept me back from, creating my prison YouTube channel. But one reason that I wanted to do it I spent a lot of time helping people, and I wanted to reach a larger audience to share on how to succeed as an ex-convict and a felon. So I felt like I can inspire hope. And that would be sharing my story, because I've been home from prison for 20 years now, and I have made the best use of my time. I've helped rebuild more houses than you can imagine after Hurricane Katrina with little to no pay. I use my own time, effort, and resources to help build these homes for underprivileged people in the communities all around and in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina, because I got out of prison right when Hurricane Katrina hit. I must have been out of prison 2 or 3 months before Hurricane Katrina hit. And so I helped rebuild a lot of the Ninth Ward, the lower Ninth Ward. I helped work with the New Orleans Saints. I had Saints players who we worked in conjunction with to rebuild houses. Some of the area where Brad Pitt built all those houses, I helped build a lot of those. I was ground level. I was there. I was pulling permits. I was setting up vendors. I was leading universities and churches that wanted to come be a part of rebuilding efforts. I was organizing all that, and that's what I did. And it was after I had finished a technical college degree, because when I got out of prison, I always said I wanted to go to school. And I wasn't going to go to LSU. I wasn't going to go to Harvard or nothing. I was an ex-convict, almost 30 years old. I had to accept what I could do. And so I was realistic too. I wasn't foolish or stupid. And so I found a technical college that I thought could help me get where I needed to be to make me a better man. And even though I didn't get an elaborate degree, I did get an associate's degree. And for an ex-convict, that's a big deal. And I got to use that degree to help people who couldn't do nothing pull permits. And so I helped people a lot. And that was just one area. I went to Mexico and we did some rebuilding, and I was able to speak and influence people in Germany. That was a blessing. So I got to do a lot of things, and we got to help a lot of people. And the reality is, let's be honest, everybody wants controversy. Nobody cares about the people who are helping people. How many good stories you see online? How many good stories they have on YouTube? Feel-good stories. They're not going to get the same amount of views as the idiots. You can make a good song that's truly a good song, and if it don't have foolishness in it, it's just not going to get the same airplay. It's not going to get the same play. That's just a reality. So people don't care about positivity. And see, you got to be the type of person who's standing there saying, I don't care if nobody else is going to stand up for what's right. I'm going to stand up for what's right. I'm going to do what's right. I'm going to speak what's right. And that's the type of person you got to be. Man, be an influence in the right direction. It doesn't matter what the crowd's doing. And that's another thing. Almost everybody's a sheep. Everybody wants to talk about the black sheep, but they ain't nothing but the regular sheep. The black sheep stands out. He ain't doing what everybody else doing. He don't follow trends. He makes his own trend. And so one thing I wanted to do when I started my YouTube channel, prison YouTube content channel, they always said, I watched all the YouTube creators who talk about how to have a YouTube channel, what to do, what not to do. The YouTube channel creators, the professionals on how to do YouTube. They said, don't buck the trend. Do what everybody else is doing. Well, that didn't fit me. And so a lot of times I didn't start the channel because of that. I'm like, I can't do what everybody else is going to do. I need to be myself. And so I knew that I wanted to approach YouTube different than everybody else did. I knew that my style of storytelling was different, and I wanted to share it so others could also enjoy the stories that I have. I know I have unique stories, and I tell them in a different light. And I know I'm not sitting here elaborating about being in prison gangs and how tough I was. I got in lots of fights in prison, but I don't claim to be the baddest and toughest dude. I did what I had to do to get by, get through prison. And so I wanted to come at this prison channel, content, genre differently than everybody else did. And that's what I'm doing. If you watch my channel long enough, anybody who's watching my channel, anybody's a part of this community who has watched my videos, they know that the way I approach crime in prison is different than the other channels. I tell different stories. If you have an attention span that can last longer than somebody on TikTok, and you see my stories, every minute they're different. You ain't gonna hear them nowhere else. I guarantee you that. And that's how I came up, since I knew I wanted to be unique. That's how I came out with the slogan for the Pen and the Shank, which is, the Pen and the Shank is the most unusual and unique crime and prison channel experience on YouTube. And that's our slogan here at the Pen and the Shank. That's going to be our slogan. That's what we got. And I got it from wanting to be unique, from wanting to deliver a different message than everybody else. And I knew it was going to take me a little bit longer to get my footing. And I knew it was going to take me a little bit longer to start this channel and get a community. And we're starting to gain it. And we're gaining traction. And we're getting a lot of positive reviews. And it's going to take a little time, but it's happening, and it's going to happen. But I can't change the course. I got to say, look, this is the vision we have for the Pen and the Shank. This is the vision we got. This is what we're going to do as a channel. We're not just going to talk about fighting, all the fights we got. I spent almost 10 years incarcerated on and off in Louisiana. I probably got in, 3 dozen fights in all that time. So that's 35 fights maybe I got into the whole time I was in prison. What happened to the 9 years and 9 months that I never got in a fight on the days? Those are the stories you don't hear about. The mundane, the everyday. And that's what I'm giving on the Pen and the Shank. And that's what makes my channel different. That's what makes me stand out from everybody else. Are we going to talk about the fist fights? Are we going to talk about the shankings? Are we going to talk about the gang fights? Sure, we will. But that's not our primary focus on the Pen and the Shank. We want to talk and tell unique stories that you don't hear nowhere else. I also want to dig into the World Wide Web and find stories that are unusual from the crime and prison genre. Everybody is talking about whatever the trending crime occurrence is of the day. I want to find the one that kind of slipped through the cracks, that wasn't as interesting. Like on the last video I made with the dude who had the egg, the chickens. He went got his strap. He came back in and started blasting at dudes. Look, it's a regular thing, man. Florida, you don't have to wait long for a crazy crime story to come out of Florida. They come out of Florida often. And so what I also want to do is going into this year going into 2026 for the Pen and Shank, we're going to start doing lives, and we're going to start doing them better. We're going to get better as we do this. And so I knew that before this year ended, before we got into next year, we had to jump into these lives and get things cranked up and get things going so I could figure this stuff out. And that's where we are. And we're going to keep telling more unique stories, more unusual stories on the Pen and the Shank. The stories are going to be different. You ain't going to hear no more prison stories about dudes like Roly Poly than you would on the Pen and the Shank. A dude when he's forced to eat bugs. Ain't nobody talking about that stuff in prison. That dudes were forced to eat cockroaches. That dudes had cockroaches as pets. You don't hear that on no other YouTube prison genre channel. They're all talking about the Crips, the Bloods, the Aryans, Mexicans. That's what they're talking about, the gangs. I'm not sitting here glamorizing gangs. I don't have any issue. I respect the gangs. I was in prison. When I was young, I was part of a gang. But I'm a man. I think on my own. I don't need no gang telling me what to do. I march to the beat of my own drum. So that's what you get different on this channel. And that's what's going to make this channel grow. That's what's made it grow to this point. And we've been blessed. This channel has really grown, and it's really doing well. And I'm surprised, and I'm glad, and I'm grateful. And as we go into Christmas, we're gonna do some. I'm gonna try to dig deep in that library in my mind and remember all those prison Christmas stories that I got. They got crazy ones too, right? They got, for every holiday, they got a crazy prison story in my head somewhere floating around. I just got to remember, I got to pull it out. I mean, when you look at my videos, sometimes when I'm telling y'all these stories about the stories that I tell about prison on my channel, sometimes it's when I'm driving down the street and I'm like, oh man, I forgot that happened. I got to tell y'all that story. And when I tell a story, I'm like, nobody's going to care about that story. And when I tell it, everybody's like, that's the craziest story I ever heard in my life. I never heard nothing so absurd. And I'm thinking, yeah, how'd you think I felt when I was witnessing that in prison? You know what I mean? When I was witnessing the dudes, spider fights each other, So that's what we got on the Pin and the Shank. And I wanted to do this live on Thanksgiving. And we're gonna make it an annual thing every Thanksgiving. And on a lot of the holidays, we're gonna do lives. And so I'm glad for everybody who stopped in. I'm appreciative. And another thing I'm gonna start doing, I'm gonna start giving heads up before I go live. But for the first, handful of them that I did, I just wanted to shoot from the hip and do it this way just so I could figure out and just so I get my feet wet and say I did it. And as we signing out, go check out the videos on the channel. Go like and subscribe, share it, hit that bell notification. The Pin and the Shank, the most unusual and unique crime and prison-related experience on YouTube, period. You ain't gonna find these stories nowhere else. This is it. So go like and subscribe. And happy Thanksgiving. Peace.